does this work? Are there places where pretending to be someone else in a way that's less obvious than the way that you did actually is a helpful and useful thing to do?
Well, I mean, I think, to me, I think there's a question of intentionality, right? I mean, it seems as if his intentionality was to deceive, right? His intentionality was to appear to be this person no matter what, you know, for either because he's crazy or because he had, you know, some sort of altruistic motive, as poorly thought through as it was. You know, there was an expectation of deception, right? I mean, and you can look at literary, you know, and we've had a number of examples in the last, you know, 4 or 5 years of memoirs that turn out to have been, you know, not actually memoirs. And so there's a clear, you know, attempt to deceive, whereas fiction itself, whether it's fiction that's rooted in reality or fiction that's entirely in, you know, unicorns and ponies, isn't an attempt to deceive, it's an attempt to tell a story. And so, I mean, to me, I think it's really about that intentionality.
Well, yeah, I think that bringing up literary hoaxes is connecting it with literary hoaxes can be useful, but I think there's also a scale, you know, there's a spectrum of okay versus damaging literary hoaxes as well. Like Nasij, I would put as a sort of terrible one. Nasij won awards meant for people of color and Native Americans. Nasij turned out to be like a white dude in San Francisco who wrote gay porn. Terrible, right? And not because of the porn, but just because it seems so egregious to take on the identity of someone who is more marginalized than you. So I would put that power relationship heavily into the intentionality and, you know, ethics of the situation. I can imagine and have been imagining scenarios where you might have an interesting fictional news situation. So can I describe one of those? Okay,
that's why we're tossing the question.
So one that I was thinking of is the city where I live, Redwood City in the peninsula of San Francisco Bay Area. Redwood City is about half and half, Anglo and Latino, and has a lot of recent immigrants and a heavily migration, remittance, return based sort of economic relationship with one specific town in southern Mexico called Aguililla. And in Aguililla, I guess somebody said, I don't know how verifiable this is, that something like 30% of the population of Aguililla has lived in Redwood City and then come back. And so I think that relationship would be one just beautiful to explore by maybe a collaborative fiction. I think making it obvious at some point that this is fiction, you could get people to invent a whole cast of characters. And the virtue in doing that in a fictional layer, and maybe providing web-based information so people could learn about, the sister cities could learn about each other and develop more of a transparent relationship than the current one. The virtue of having that be a fictional layer would be to protect people's privacy and their real identities and their families, because it's actually no joke, even though I'm not in Syria, for me to have written many of the things I've written online and that are associated with my real name. I've been outed. I was outed in college. I was disowned by my family. I was outed by an organization called the Campus Conservatives for Christ, who sent newspaper clippings of things I had said on my campus in Texas to my parents, who freaked out. So it wasn't any joke to me to live in poverty and drop out of college for my identity and for things that I had said in a public forum. So I think that you could explore, and again the stories that I've been hearing about at this conference of people coming out is undocumented. That was very interesting. Use of coming out as a narrative structure. So if you talk about being undocumented, you're obviously putting yourself at huge risk of being deported and all kinds of consequences for your whole family and your life. So that could be a very good reason to be fictional.